This is our NESCO Academy. Okay, we are through with some topic in physics, so it's high time we also treat chemistry. Okay, the topic we have today is air and air pollution. What is air? This is not just chemistry. Even children in secondary school, that is JSS class, and even primary school, they also have this topic, although may not be as extensive as it is in chemistry. So it is for everybody. Air is a mixture of gases, and we found air in the atmosphere. Atmosphere is an envelope of air that surrounds what? The earth. The earth is surrounded by an envelope made up of air, and we call it what? Atmosphere. Why do we call air a mixture of gases? There is a difference between mixture and a compound. The reason why air is a mixture include the following. Number one, the composition of air varies from one place to another. That is, what makes up the air. If you analyze the gases that are found in the air in position A, if you go to position B, it's not going to be the same. Okay, for instance, if you are in a forest, you notice that the air will be rich in oxygen because those plants during photosynthesis they give out oxygen. Then if you are in an industrial area, you notice that the air is going to be saturated with carbon dioxide. Why? Because most of industrial processes releases what? Release carbon dioxide into the what? Atmosphere. That is number one. Number two reason is that air does not have a formula to represent it. We know it has so many components, but we don't have chemical formula to represent air. Okay, that is one of the reasons why we say air is what? A mixture. Because compound, all of them has what? A formula representing it. And compound, the composition does not vary from one place to another one. Okay, so that is number two. It doesn't have a chemical formula. Number three is that the composition, the components, the gases that make up the air, all of them still retain their individual properties. Okay, in a compound, for instance, water. You know, water is H2O, hydrogen and what? Oxygen. But the property of water is different from that of hydrogen and totally different from what? Oxygen. But in a mixture, all of them will still retain their property. Oxygen in the air still have its own property. All right. Now, another thing is that the composition of the air, these components air can be separated physically. Can be separated physically using separation technique. You can separate the composition of the air. A compound cannot be separated physically. If at all it can be separated, it must involve a chemical what? Reaction. Okay, so those are the reasons why air is described as what? A mixture and not a compound. All right, now let's look at the composition of the air. What are the components of the air? The major components of air include nitrogen, oxygen, noble gases, carbon dioxide, and then water vapor. These are the gases that make up the air. The most abundant one is this. This one constitutes about 78.1%. This constitutes about 20.9 or 20.8%. This one is about 1%. This is 0.03%. This one varies from one place to another one, from 0 to 1.2%. In fact, all of them varies. The one except nitrogen also vary from place to place. In fact, all of them vary from place to place, depending on the major activity of a particular what place. So we can now say that air is a solution of oxygen and what nitrogen. Describing this, nitrogen will be described as the solvent because that is the one um, in larger what proportion compared to what oxygen. All right. Now, a moving air is what we call what wind. It comes in different form. So we are not going to talk about air pressure and other ones right now. Maybe in the subsequent video we'll talk about that. Okay. Now, air has two major parts. We have two parts of air. We have active parts and what inactive parts. Why the word active and inactive? It all depends on the ability of the air component to support combustion. Combustion is burning of substance. Active part is the part that allow combustion or that makes something to burn and also causes metal to what? Rust. The active part of the air is made up of oxygen. Then inactive part is the part that do not support combustion. It extinguishes what? Fire. That is, it doesn't allow something to burn. And then the other components except from oxygen constitute what? The inactive what? Part of the air. In fact, nitrogen is described as what? Virulent. Why? Because it is the component that slows down combustion. It also uh, prevents corrosion of metals. This one is one that causes corrosion and combustion. These inactive, they are like as we are diluting something, diluent. Major component is what? Nitrogen. They don't allow something to burn, and not only that, they also prevent what? Combustion, corrosion of what? Metal, that is rusting. In the next video, we'll continue from there. Please do not forget to share.